morning, Bucknutters. Welcome into the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, October 19th, 2016. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by Alex Gleitman. Alex, of course, Ohio State, another road test this week at night at Penn State. Buckeyes opened at 20.5-point favorites, then it moved to 20 very quickly, and now it's down to 19.5. So, so far the money's going towards Penn State a little bit. But I look at this Nittany Lions team, Alex, and, there's some good things and some bad things. I think Trace McSorley, you can see him being a good fit for that offense at quarterback, and he's going to continue to grow and get better. And I think even from the beginning of the season, I've seen him get better. Saquon Barkley, one of the best running backs in the country. Those are some good things. And then the bad things, their offensive line is beat up. Andrew Nelson, they lost for the season. He was having a good year. And then at linebacker, they're so beat up at linebacker, they're three guys that were supposed to be their starting linebackers entering the season are all out. So, but we all know Happy Valley is a tough place to play at night. Just your thoughts on this game, Alex.
Yeah, well, Dave, I think a lot of people are looking at the last 2 weeks for Ohio State. They beat Indiana by 21. Most teams would be happy to have a 21-point win. Actually should have been a 28-point win if Damon Arnett wasn't incorrectly called for a illegal block penalty. Malik Hooker would have had a pick six. So they won that game even though they kind of struggled within the game. They won that by 21. People see that. They see them go into Madison on the road at night, a tough environment, similar to what they'll face on Saturday night with the Penn State whiteout. And they see them struggle in the first half there. The offensive line struggled in terms of protecting the passer, both on the line and with the blitzing linebackers. The receivers struggled a little bit to get open, and they dropped a couple of passes, including 2 short-fire touchdowns. But obviously Ohio State came back. They ended up winning the game. They threw it a little bit better in the second half. They ran it about the same. They got it went out in overtime. So people, I think, see those 2 games, the last 2 games, and they start to, I don't want to say they're starting to doubt Ohio State a little bit, but they're starting to say, is Ohio State really as good as we thought? Are they really as dominant as a number 2 team in the country should be? So I think those are some of the question marks coming into this game for the Buckeyes. And the spread was set at 20 points, as you said. I thought it would probably be somewhere around 17. It seems like it's inching a little bit closer to that. I don't think it will get that low. But I think that's a good sign for Ohio State. I think, there's no doubt Ohio State's the more talented team. I think Penn State has a big home field advantage playing in front of their home crowd, which should be pretty rowdy on Saturday night. They've won 2 in a row. They're starting to get a little bit of momentum. As you said, their quarterback's starting to play a little bit better. Saquon Barkley may be the best running back in the country, period. We don't know, but he's definitely one of the best, and he shredded Ohio State last year, even though the Buckeyes took care of business in Columbus. So I think it's a challenge for Ohio State, but as you said, Penn State on the offensive line, banged up. They're also not only replacing Andrew Nelson, they're starting a redshirt and true freshman on the line. On the defensive line, they haven't been all that great either, and they're missing linebackers. So that's the perfect formula to me for Ohio State to run the football, which is what they want to do in every single game. If you have a defensive line that hasn't played that well and backup linebackers in the game, Ohio State should be able to run all over them. But you better believe that James Franklin's going to put people up in the box, sell out to stop the run, and make Ohio State pass to win the game, similar to what Wisconsin did last week, similar to what Indiana did the week before. That's the formula to beat Ohio State. Ohio State's just going to have to execute. I personally think they will on Saturday night. I think they're going to win the game. I think they're going to cover the spread, and I think Ohio State's going to roll into what actually could be a trap game against Northwestern at home next week.
Hey, on the recruiting front, talk about some guys some recruits that Ohio State and Penn State are going head-to-head for, 2017 class, 2018 class, even 2019 class. Just anyone that the Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions are going head-to-head for.
Yeah, well, right now in 2017, I don't think there's anyone. There's definitely people that, Ohio State has that Penn State wants. I don't think there's anyone that Penn State has or is going for right now that Ohio State is going to try to flip or they're going to go head-to-head for through the end of the cycle. There's Lamont Wade. He's there right now. I don't think he's a take for Ohio State. He's a take for Penn State, so he would be the only guy in 2017. And I think you could sit there and say this could be a legitimate battle between the two schools should Ohio State decide that they want to take Lamont Wade in this class. But I think the big guy to look at is in 2018. There's a number of prospects, but the big guy I want to point out on the show is Micah Parsons. He's a top 5 player in the country. He's an outstanding defensive end. I had the opportunity to see him live this summer, and he's a beast. He was it was at the opening in New Jersey, and he was there among 2017, 2018 prospects, and he was like one of the best players there, regardless of class. He's committed to Penn State right now, but he's starting to look around. And he's from the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area, big Penn State country, but also big Larry Johnson country. And LJ, who would be his position coach in college, is doing a great job recruiting him. The Buckeyes have his attention. He said he's going to visit at some point. He's hopefully going to get to campus this current football season. If not, it will be in the off season, and then probably next year, I would assume, for an official visit or something along those lines. But that's going to be, certainly a big battle. And in addition to Parsons, another guy I do want to point out to watch is Zach Kuntz, a tight end from Pennsylvania. Right now, Penn State does have a tight end committed. After that happened, I switched my crystal ball from Zach Kuntz from Penn State to Stanford, but Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, and Stanford are in the mix. Ohio State has Mustafa Muhammad, and I think the number one target, Jeremy Ruckert, who's also a Penn State target, on their tight end board for 2018. But Zach Kuntz is a guy who's visited Columbus multiple times. He's in Penn State country. They're going to keep coming after him. He's one of the best players in the country, period, regardless of position. So that's another one to watch in addition to Parsons in 2018 and Lamont Wade in 2017.
Back to looking at Ohio State's current roster, Noah Brown seems to be the number one receiver. I think that's not really debatable at this point. Not that he's putting up crazy stats, but 6 touchdowns on the year. I mean, he seems to be, if they had to pick a go-to receiver, it would be him. I'm not talking about the hybrids. I'm not talking about Curtis Samuel. I'm talking about just the wide receivers. If you had to guess if there's another guy that's really going to step up and, take that mantle, maybe even challenge Noah Brown to be the number one wide receiver, who is it? Is it Paris Campbell? Is it Terry McLaurin? Maybe is it KJ Hill, who's now healthy? Could Corey Smith get in the mix at some point later in the year when he gets healthy? Just who do you think could possibly step up and either challenge Noah Brown for that number one wide receiver job or at least become a very reliable number two?
Well, yeah, I don't think it's going to be challenge Noah Brown for that number one because he plays that position at that same position that Mike Thomas played. I mean, that's the Ohio State number one receiver, but I think someone could emerge as a number two. I think Paris Campbell does a lot of things well, and he's kind of like the Evan Spencer of this year's team, but I think the guy who's going to emerge, and I said this, if you haven't had a chance, check out our mid-season superlatives that we put on the site earlier this week. The guy who I put as the player to emerge in the second half was Terry McLaurin. I think he's really starting to come on from the start of training camp through the first half of the season. You can see he's slowly progressed up that chart, up that pecking order. I know the receivers use a rotation, but he's kind of progressed up that order. And he's made some plays. I mean, he should have had a touchdown in the Wisconsin game. He made a big touchdown catch in the Indiana game. You could see them kind of looking at him and targeting him and putting him in positions to succeed more and more. And I think he's going to be the guy who, as he gets more comfortable and as he gets more game reps, he's going to learn and grow, and he's going to emerge as that number two receiver for the Buckeyes behind Noah Brown. But I think overall, the Ohio State passing game, the receivers need to be more consistent. I mean, we see Noah Brown come out and catch 4 touchdowns against Oklahoma and then, go quiet for a couple of games. And that just can't happen. We need more consistency out of this unit before we call them anything but average to slightly above average at this point.
Hey, last thing before I let you go. It seems like Isaiah Prince is struggling at times. He's got a lot of talent, but he doesn't seem very physical. I rarely see him on the giving end of a very physical play. He's usually on the receiving end. I see him getting pushed back or kind of getting reverse pancaked. I haven't seen him dish out many pancakes or many big blocks. And then furthermore, Urban Meyer didn't blast him or anything. He just said he needs to play better. So I don't think it's a huge concern, but I think it's a mild concern that Isaiah Prince, still a very young guy, a true sophomore. Just your thoughts on Isaiah Prince.
As you said, I think he's young. While he technically played last year, it was in garbage time and it was very minimal. He's a big time recruit, so you can't say, it's only his second year, and these guys are supposed to come in and be ready to play. But the offensive line's a little different. I think there's a couple things at play here. I think first of all, these guys. I think he's doing a little bit too much thinking. I think when you're young and you don't have the game reps, and I think this is something you'll get better at with again, every single rep you take, not necessarily every single game you play, but every single rep you take within a game, you'll get better and better. And until things become muscle memory, you just know what you're going to be doing based on what you're seeing. I think right now maybe he's doing a little too much thinking and a little not enough playing with his instincts and just with his pure strength and ability, athletic ability at the size he has. And then the second thing I'm seeing, if I'm looking at some of the film, I'm actually going to be coming out with something either on the message board or on the site this week about breaking down every single J.T. Barrett throw from the past weekend in Wisconsin to show he actually played a great game. But in some of that, you get to see some of the breakdowns in pass protection. And I noticed Isaiah Prince, his mechanics, he kind of left them at the line of scrimmage a lot. He didn't get low. He didn't bend properly. He wasn't using leverage to move his guys in the run game, or he wasn't necessarily using the best technique in pass protection. So between, kind of thinking too much and then kind of like losing some of, the fundamental skills that he should be using and the technique things that he should be using, I think right now he's struggling a little bit. But again, I think he's going to get better every game, and as he gets more comfortable and as the line continues to gel throughout the season, I think he's going to be just fine. I think by the time he leaves Ohio State, he's going to be one of the best offensive linemen in the country. He's got all the ability in the world. It's not like he's been awful. He's struggled a little bit, but, so did Billy Price. And Michael Jordan struggled a little bit this game, but I think these guys are all going to be fine. I think Isaiah Prince is going to be just fine as well.
Great insights, as always, out of Alex Gleitman. Thank you, Alex. Quick programming note, tonight after practice, around 6:15, 6:30, we will interview Urban Meyer, and then after that, we will interview one or two assistant coaches and some players. Ohio State has not told us which assistant coaches or which players yet, but we will get Coach Meyer and one or two assistants and a handful of players after practice tonight, so keep it locked to Bucknuts for that. We'll have stories, bolts, and videos on what those gentlemen have to say. Thanks again to Alex Gleitman, and thanks to the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I appreciate it. Hope everyone has a great day. Let's hear some Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.